Okay. Great.
Well, it's an honor to welcome you to Calvin College today, and we're gratified by your interest in our project and in your interest in renewable energy in general. And like I said, we have a short presentation here today where we'll go through some of the aspects of our project and show you how these kinds of technologies can be used in a learning environment to educate the students, current students, for their future activities as engineers. So the topics today, we're going to talk about a little bit about the project context and the objectives that we have for it. We'd like to talk about the work that the students are doing currently. So we have several reports from the students on the working groups that they're in. And each of those reports will take the same format where they'll talk about their role and status, discuss some of the challenges that they face in implementing renewable energy technology, and then talk about some of the solutions that they've come across as they were doing their work. And then at the end, we'll have a summary and conclusions, but we'd like you to know that you are free to interrupt us at any time.
Excellent. I already have my first question. Are all of you all engineering students?
Yes.
All right, excellent. All right,
Yep.
Please carry on.
So the project context and objectives, and I'll take this one, and then after that I'll hand the podium off to the students here. So you're aware, of course, of the national and state imperatives for renewable energy technology, including reducing our dependence on foreign oil, including getting a better energy portfolio for the state of Michigan.
You know that I proposed this, right? You know
And developing, jobs and creating, stimulating the economy in the state. At Calvin, we take our biblical mandate to be stewards of the creation very seriously, and we have a draft sustainability statement that we're working on. Janelle Curry over there has been involved in some of that as well. And the way that we we see our working out of that biblical mandate to be stewards of the creation is in part by adopting and utilizing sustainable technologies. So several projects that we've had here at Calvin that have been specifically associated with that in the past have been a grant that we received from the Energy Office of Michigan to do solar photovoltaic energy research. And the building that you're in right here is a LEED certified building that has 20 kilowatts of solar energy on the roof. We also had a solar thermal system grant, which you can see in the upper right-hand corner, that I implemented with some students. And the one that we're here to talk about today is a current grant that we have from the Energy Office of Michigan, and that's for a wind energy demonstration project. Another piece of the context here is that we like to use the campus as a learning tool. And there's plenty of projects, and the students can attest to the things that we do on campus to help us learn about technology and so forth. For the current wind energy project, the objectives that we had in our proposal were to provide an in-depth, hands-on learning experience for faculty, staff, and students. So we're going to get this technology in-house, but use it as an opportunity to educate students. We wanted to promote wind energy to the Calvin College student body, faculty, staff, and the broader community. So the visibility of the turbine that we're going to put in place is an important piece of this. And evaluate in Grand Rapids specific wind energy resources that we have here and the possibility for doing solar-wind hybrids. And the idea there is that in the summer, of course, solar is good, but in the winter it tails off, and in the winter we get more wind, so that can fill in.
Is there a model that you have looked at for that, for solar-wind hybrid? Is there somewhere where there has been a demonstration project or an initiative that has done that well?
I didn't see. Chuck, you want to mention something about that?
Well, I think if you just look at the solar charge, you can see that the summer is when we really read. When we look at our kiosks out here, we see that the bulk of our energy will always come in the summer. And then when winter comes, we get smaller, we'll have our panels shut down. If you look at the wind charts for this area here, wind really kicks up in the wintertime, but in the summer, it tapers right on off. So if we blend those two together, you get stronger wind in the winter, not as much solar in the winter, vice versa, flips in the summer. We look at making that hybrid system to kind of complement this building on its energy needs, make it more level.
I'm with you on the whole thing. I'm just wondering if it's been done anywhere.
I'm sure it's been done, but I don't have a location.
Oh, yeah.
The thing to remember too is that it's very site specific, right? The resources that you have in each site are very specific.
I love it because it really goes right to the issue of why not just solar or why not just wind. That's great.
I want to tell you a little bit about the timeline that we've had on this project, and it also help explain the process that we're going to go through the presentation today. Back in the fall of 2005, back in my high school days, suddenly. How did I get there? Wow. On campus and with some significant student interest, we formed a wind energy interest group, so WEIG, and Jordan Beekhuis, who is one of the drivers for that, is going to discuss that today. Then in August of last year, we made a proposal to the Energy Office of Michigan for this grant. In fall of 2006, before we knew we had the grant, we were awarded the grant, I assigned to one of my classes a project to look at wind energy, and Rob Lindquist is going to talk about that, and they performed that work through the fall of 2006. January 2007, we had our grant start, and then this spring, there's been a big handoff from the Engineering 333 class to the Wind Energy Interest Group, and it's that interest group that's responsible for implementing the grant that we have from the state of Michigan. So there are going to be 4 students from the Wind Energy Interest Group talking about their particular roles and parts of the project, from Leanne all the way over to Dan. And we hope to make first power before graduation, when many of the seniors here will be leaving campus. So at the end of April, we hope to have a go at making some energy. So I'd like to turn it over right now to Jordan Beekhuis, who will talk about the Wind Energy Interest Group.
In fall of 2007, a very perceptive electrical engineering professor, Paulo Ribeiro, started to realize that there was significant interest building in the engineering students with renewable energy and in wind energy specifically. In his enthusiasm to see these students follow through on their interests, he publicly announced that several of us had formed the steering committee of the Wind Energy Interest Group. While this was actually news to many of us and a little bit uncomfortable for all of us as well, we saw it was an opportunity we didn't want to pass up to really initiate the discussion on this topic we thought was really important. So we felt this group would provide a peer learning environment, and we thought that students would be able to share their knowledge of renewable energy. So in February of 2006, we began holding bi-monthly meetings where students came and shared what they had learned in courses, through internships, as well as even through independent research projects they started specifically for sharing at these student-led seminars. We also hoped, one of the more important things we hoped, was that this group could serve as a catalyst for many more renewable energy and sustainable projects on Calvin's campus, similar to the ones Professor Heun mentioned earlier. And in many ways it has. The demonstration wind turbine project we're working on currently actually takes up much of the group's time at this moment, as this group served as a catalyst for this project and was in many ways what kickstarted Calvin in going into the state of Michigan in order to get this grant for the turbine. And it's now our responsibility to ensure that the project is built this spring. As a group, though, we're actually looking to move beyond wind energy. We want to look at other technologies such as photovoltaics, biofuels, technology to improve energy efficiency, as well as cutting-edge technology for energy storage that will allow these intermittent resources to serve as a reliable base load for energy here in Michigan. The challenges we've faced as a group actually range from very small to global in scale. One of the smaller challenges has been trying to accommodate the wide range of people who have become interested in this group, and in all honesty, as students, faculty, staff, and students from actually many different majors are starting to become more interested, we have to work hard to ensure that as many people as possible are able to attend and participate in these meetings. One of the other issues that has been big for us has been the misinformation on renewable energy, and we feel this is one of the areas we're best situated to help confront this issue. We face this both from students within the school as well as from people within the community, and this is really understandable. As with any sort of societal changing technology such as renewable energy, there are going to be resources out there that only focus on the negatives and resources that really, just praise it. And as obviously, on an issue like this, the truth is always going to fall somewhere in between those two extremes.
What's the biggest aspect of misinformation that you think we have to educate people about?
Well, there's a lot of little things, in all honesty. Wind energy has had a lot of stipulations with respect to its interaction with birds and things of that nature, and people always sort of reference back to what began in California and some poor sighting that happened and resulted in bird fatalities of very rare species. But in all honesty, it's one of these things that really doesn't have much effect with modern technology. Also things like sound and other things, people want to make sure that it's not going to be an annoyance to them. And those things have improved greatly over time as well. So really to make sure that they understand where the technology is and really where it still has to go. So the global challenge, though, we've faced is the challenge that faces everyone who's concerned with the degradation of our ecological resources. As evidence continues to build connecting our activities to significant damage to the environment, with the 4th report by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change just 2 weeks ago coming out with some of the most comprehensive data connecting our activities to significant changes in the global atmosphere. As Christians mandated to care for this creation, we find it is our responsibility not only to acknowledge this, but to serve as leaders in finding solutions. In light of this responsibility, our goals hope to make a significant difference. We hope to raise awareness of sustainability issues and help people to push for effective policy. This would be things such as the 5-year extension to the production tax credit for wind energy. If this 5-year extension were to go through, it would provide significant stability for this industry and allow for significant growth here in the United States. Other issues such as the renewable portfolio standards and the energy efficiency measures pushed for in the 21st Century Energy Plan must be brought to the attention of as many people as possible in order to make sure that they succeed and for the benefit of all people in Michigan. We also hope to help prepare students for employment in this growing industry by helping each other to understand this emerging technology, and by sort of providing a connection to industry. We hope that a lot more Calvin graduates will be able to go on and work in the renewable energy industry, and we sort of hope that the passion and the skill that they learn here at Calvin will help to ensure this industry thrives and sort of produces many more jobs for the economy here in Michigan. And finally, we intend to continue to inform people about renewable energy, helping them better understand it and seeing not only the benefits but also the limitations and challenges that have to be overcome so we can continue to advance. I'll now be passing the floor off to Rob Lindquist, who will be talking about the Engineering 333 class.
The Engineering 333 class is, as you can see, a thermal fluid systems design course. And basically what that is the lecture portion of the course focuses on the optimization of a steam power plant that generates power using steam, and also generates steam for to use for other purposes. Along with this lecture portion, there's also been, historically, Professor Heun has assigned a kind of a semester-long design project that the classes have done. They've worked all together on the same project. And this past semester, in the fall of 2006, this project had a goal of making a significant impact on Calvin's campus using wind energy. Now, this project was divided into 2 different components. There was a short-term and a long-term component. The short-term was the wind turbine that we're here talking about today, which was what we saw as a 1 to 3 kilowatt turbine. And the significant impact we wanted to see with that was, first of all, to provide educational opportunities for both the campus and the surrounding community, as well as demonstrating that in the Grand Rapids area, wind power is a viable option for creating power. For the long-term project, which is just a potential project that we kind of wanted to explore, we looked at a 200 kilowatt to 1 megawatt turbine and looked at various options there. We wanted to provide a larger amount of power to Calvin's campus, as well as show a financial feasibility for the project. The class was divided into 5 teams, and those will be gone over later, along with the wind energy interest group. We ran into a number of challenges throughout our project. First of all, for the financial models of this potential long-term project that we looked into, we wanted to determine if it was going to be financially feasible for the college, and we had to look at these various issues with inflation rate and energy escalation rate, 2 specific examples where we didn't know what it was going to do over the next 25 years of this potential project. So what we did was we took the worst case scenarios for both of those rates and other figures also, and we showed financial feasibility with those, and then we said if those rates happen to improve or be in a better way for us, then we're going to show even more financial feasibility with the project. Yes, that's for one of the turbines that we have. We also have different turbines that we've looked at. So we show financial feasibility with this, which is a very good thing for us, because then if we went ahead and went with this, then we would see that it's something we can do, and we can not only make money but also decrease our dependence on fossil fuels. The short-term challenge, our main one, was the budget. We had this when we started out with the project. I'm sure. When we started out with the project, it was just kind of an idea that we would get this $6,000 from the Energy Office of Michigan. And then in about the middle of October, we actually found out we were going to receive the grant. And that was really exciting for the class because it made the project become real for us, where many of these projects we do are kind of ideas that we have, but this one we saw as something that was actually physically going to be on campus for us, but hopefully by the time we graduated, and now it looks like that's actually going to come true. The other $5,000 came from a commitment from Calvin College along with this grant to give us a total of $11,000. And I'm sure if you would have asked anybody in the class, they would have loved to have $20,000 to put everything we could into the project and give it some more other bells and whistles that we would have liked to have. But we had to prioritize and look at what did we need and what could we leave out. And I think it was a great learning experience for all of us in that we're going to be under budget crunches no matter where we work. And we were able to prioritize and see what can we put on here and what should we leave off. And finally, the location was our final challenge. We knew the short-term project we'd want to put on campus just to facilitate the learning environment and things like that. For the potential long-term project, we could have put it off campus. We could have put the power onto the consumer's energy grid and then gotten it back. But we found that there were just many ways that it would not be beneficial for that. So to facilitate the learning environment, we actually put it on campus. Here you can see we have a map of the east side of campus here. The Bunker Interpretive Center is where we are today. To the north is the Nature Preserve, and to the east is the Gainey Athletic Complex, which is not only used by Calvin students for athletic use, but also by Grand Rapids Christian High School and many other members of the community for various athletic events. Here we have the location of the demonstration turbine that we're going to put up this spring. As you can see, it's very close to...
Oh, right there. Right in front of me.
It's very close to these athletic facilities, so many patrons from outside of campus will also be able to see this turbine up there and hopefully spinning and generating electricity, which will hopefully generate more interest. We have two options where it can either be 35 feet tall or about 50 feet tall. Lucas is actually going to get into that later, or Jordan actually. And then here we have the potential long-term site, which is just an idea, but something that we'd like to see happen in the future, where Calvin can actually generate a significant amount of wind power to use for itself. The long-term options we went with the Intercon Corporation out of Germany. The first option we have is the E33, which is a 330 kilowatt turbine, and that is kind of the smaller option of the two that we have here. The second is the 800 kilowatt turbine, the E53, and that's a larger option. It would be taller, it would be bigger. There'd be different issues that we'd have to deal with each turbine. The E53 shows more economic feasibility. However, they both show that we would break even over the lifetime of the turbine. The reason we went with this Intercon Corporation is they have a couple of innovative design features that really interested us. First of all, it's a gearless design, which means there's no gearbox, which means less noise, and you don't have to replace a gearbox throughout the lifetime of the turbine, which decreases the maintenance. Secondly, they have innovative blades, which they prevent the aerodynamic noise at the tip of the blade, which also decreases the noise, which is one of the major concerns that neighbors tend to have. So those are two very good design features that we are excited to have with the Intercon Corporation. The next steps we'd like to see as a class, where we delivered the short-term results to the Wind Energy Interest Group, and many of those results we're finding are actually being used by the interest group. They selected the turbine we recommended, which Lucas is going to get into, and many other things. They looked at our tower option, and it's very exciting to see them going ahead with our recommendations. For the long term, we'd like to see wind data collected at the potential site for this large wind turbine that could go up potentially. What we need to know is there enough wind up there to actually spin this and make it a feasible option for Calvin, because we just estimated these wind speeds and we need to know if these are really what they are up there. Now I'll turn it over to Leanne Bach, who's going to discuss external relations.
The role of the external relations team was to aid in the site selection process by providing information regarding zoning laws and community concerns. We also were responsible for providing information that would be distributed among nearby neighbors and to research and complete the entire zoning process. The picture shows the relative locations of the turbine site and also the nearest neighbor, which is approximately 700 feet apart. One of the challenges we faced was addressing neighbor concerns. The main two concerns were noise pollution and environmental effects. The chart shown here is data provided by the manufacturer. As you can see, the generator operating noise falls between 40 and 50 decibels, which is comparable to a rainfall or a quiet room. In regards to environmental effects, the National Wind Coordinating Committee, or NWCC, states that wind turbine-related avian collision fatalities accounts for approximately 1/100 of 1% of the annual avian collision fatalities in the United States.
The neighbor that you identified on the previous slide, is that residential?
Yes, and actually that house is owned by Kelvin, so luckily she is on our side. Lastly, we had to prepare documents and present our case before the zoning board in order to actually get a variance, because our tower selection is going to be over the, going to exceed the minimum or the maximum height requirement in the area. The result of the zoning meeting was a compromise between the neighbor concerns and Calvin. It is a 12-month zoning variance, which allows for further research into environmental effects and the sound impact in our specific area. So for a 12-month period after the first day of installation, we have to collect data and then present this back to the zoning board and ask for a permanent variance to the zoning. And now I'm going to turn it over to Lucas DeYoung, who will talk about the turbine selection.
As you can assume, the major purpose of my team was to determine which turbine we wanted to go with and where we wanted to purchase it from. We went through a lot of options that the 333 class provided for us, and also other options that we found on the web. And we chose to go with their main recommendation for the 1.8 kilowatt Southwest Skystream 3.7 turbine. And we also chose to go with an outside vendor based in Texas, the Earth Solar Group, mainly because of the financial opportunity that they gave us. And we've already ordered this turbine, and we expect it to arrive within the next couple of weeks. Some of the major challenges that we faced are the low wind speeds that are here in Grand Rapids. As you can see, the state of Michigan has great resources on the lakeshore. However, once you get inland, it tends to slow down quite significantly into poor or marginal resources. Therefore, we needed to find a turbine that we'd be able to optimize the low wind speeds. Also, the maintenance costs can be significant in a small-scale wind turbine, and therefore, we wanted to find something that would try to minimize that, and also the budget constraints that we had with the $11,000. Some of the solutions to these were encapsulated in the Skystream 3.7, which included the low cut-in speed of 8 miles per hour. Therefore, we'd be able to use the wind turbine more often than some of the other wind turbines that start up at a higher wind speed. And also, the wind turbine doesn't have a gearbox, so that we don't have to incorporate maintenance costs, as well as the long-term project that Rob talked about. And also, the educational discount from our vendor helped us to stay within budget. And now I'll turn it over to Jordan Wanner, who will talk about the tower selection.
My role in this project, along with 2 other students from the Wind Energy Interest Group, was first to select a tower design that was suitable for Calvin College, the turbine requirements, and our budget. Also, we had to determine whether or not it would be better to buy or build our own tower. After selecting the tower and determining whether or not it would be better to buy or build, we had to do soil testing and choose an appropriate foundation for soil type and tower loading. Our final goal, or our final role, is the installation and erection of the tower itself. Our first challenge came in weighing the advantages and disadvantages of each tower design. First, guided has a large footprint, which isn't favorable in our application because it's being implemented in the nature preserve. And also, the guides themselves are a lead cause for avian fatality. Next was a lattice tower, which is also has a large footprint and is the least aesthetically pleasing, as you can see. And the last option we were considering is a monopole design, which of the 3 by far has the smallest footprint, and it is the most aesthetically pleasing. For a turbine to work most efficiently, it needs to be 20 feet above any tree line that's within 250 feet radius of the turbine itself. However, we had a trade-off with this with our budget because of, as the tower gets higher, the more expensive it becomes. So the budget was main factor in our consideration for tower height. So, and our final challenge was having a tower ready actually in time for the installation date, which affected our decision in buying or building our own tower. We concluded that the monopole design would be the best because it has the smallest environmental impact due to its small footprint, and also because it's most aesthetically pleasing. We measured the tree line height in the area of the turbine site and found the optimal height would be 50 feet. We ruled out designing our own tower because of the time constraints and also the cost of the material used in building the tower itself. We're currently considering the 33-foot and 45-foot Southwest Wind Power Tower. However, the 45-foot tower is brand new, and the prices and its delivery date is still unknown. As a result, we're planning on utilizing the 33-foot tower. And last, we concluded that we would install the tower ourselves, and we're currently working on everything to begin construction.
Have you already ordered towers?
No, we haven't ordered yet, but we're working on
What's
it.
the cost difference between 33 and 40?
We're not sure because the 45 price is not out yet since it's just in development still. And we were expecting a month or so, but we can't really plan on that because we have to build a foundation soon to have it ready in time. So yeah. Dan Prince will now talk about the infrastructure.
My role and that of the infrastructure group is to basically connect this turbine to the outside world. So first of all, the power connection or connection to the power grid, and second was the data connections or connecting the instrumentation to the web. So on the power connection side, we're in contact with Consumers Power and applying for their net metering program for small renewable energy applications. And then on the data connection side, we're planning on running fiber optic cable out to the turbine to prevent interference with the power lines. Most of the challenges we've faced over the course of the project have stemmed from, first, the remote location out in the nature preserve, and second, the inexperience with wind turbine projects, both on our part and that of Consumers Power. As we're out in the nature preserve, there's very few connections to the power grid, so we have to stay under budget and still be able to transmit power to a close location. And then on the, as far as the net metering application goes, it's quite an extensive process in order to connect yourself to the grid, even for a project this small. So solutions for this, as a connection site, we've chosen the Gainey Field concession stand, which is shown right here. As you can see, that's the closest available location for connection to the power grid, plus it has both suitable power connections and fiber optic cable connections already in place. So we found that to be a suitable location. As far as the net metering process goes, this is still a future problem that we look forward to facing. But I've talked to Consumers Power, and they've been quite accommodating so far, so I feel the process should run quite smoothly. Now we'll turn it back over to Professor Heun for the conclusion of the presentation.
So I hope you've been able to get a sense that learning opportunities abound here for our students, faculty, staff, administration, and community. We see a lot of stakeholders in this, and we're trying to involve everyone. We've learned about budgetary limitations, and I think we share some commonality with you on that one. We've learned about project planning and management. We sit down with the schedule every Friday afternoon, mind you, on the students' own time, to look at schedule and managing the project. We've learned about the zoning process, regulatory environment, net metering, wind resources, and neighbors concerned about turbine, sight, and sound. All of that comes into play, and it's a great learning environment because it's more than just the technical. There's all the social and political and other factors involved as well. To conclude then, I'd say we're educating tomorrow's leaders for renewable energy technology. That's what we're here doing, and that's how we're using the grant that we got from the state of Michigan. And I think we're going to be successful, and I would invite you to come back in May and see our turbine standing. To finish up here, I'd like to acknowledge several people. First of all, John Sarver and Roger Doherty, who's in the back from the Energy Office of Michigan. Roger, there you go. They're our liaisons for the grant. Henry DeVries, Calvin's VP for almost everything, has been a real champion. He's unfortunately out of town today and is not here. but he attends our Friday meetings and was also instrumental in the Engineering 333 class this past semester. Phil Beeshold, who's in the back there from Calvin's Physical Plant, and Paul Pennick have been supportive of this, and those guys, I will say publicly right now, are fantastic. I have never been turned down for a physical plant request for something that involved education on this campus, and for that I thank you guys. Chuck Halberta in Calvin's Electronics Shop, who already spoke a minute ago, did a lot of the legwork for preparing the proposal, and so I appreciate that. And finally, the students from Engineering 333 and the Wind Energy Interest Group, who are, like I said, donating their time on their own in extracurricular fashion to make this happen. So, at this point, I think what we'll do is we'll take any questions from you, Governor Granholm, and then after that, we'll turn the podium over to you for any questions from the assembled audience. Any questions?
In fact, I mean, if I can I just come up?
Absolutely.
What I'd love to do is to, I'm not asking a question along the way, and I do want to understand, you all are engineering students, is it just a regular engineering program, or is the engineering program specifically for alternative or renewable energy?
Our engineering program has 4 what we call concentrations: civil, mechanical, electrical, and chemical engineering. And so this renewable energy technology cuts across all those things, and that's why at this point we formed a wind energy or renewable energy interest group that's going to draw from all those concentrations.
So are you all seniors?
So you'll be here to reap the benefits, hopefully, of what you're. Right. Well, I want to say, I mean, first of all, you're probably aware this is an area that we absolutely, as a state, ought to be capitalizing on, this renewable energy. In fact, I just have asked the legislature to expand our next energy legislation to allow for the tax credits. I know they're trying to do it on the federal level too, but so that the state can be a magnet state for both wind and solar. You may are probably aware that we've really pursued aggressively the photovoltaic companies, United Solar Ovonics, which is in Greenville, to replace Electrolux when they left. They are coming and they're building 5 plants to do the photovoltaic solar panels. So between them and another company, which is up here, called Hemlock Semiconductor, they're also doing solar panels as an energy company. We as a state, and I say this to all of you, well, you older ones, you all have your careers already, but the younger, though, you guys who are deciding where to go and what to do, I am convinced that this, as we diversify Michigan's economy, this is going to be an area for us to specialize in. We want to be the state that breaks or helps to break the U.S.'s dependence on fossil fuels and foreign oils, and it's, you know, Michigan can lead the way because no other state has got the resources and the bounty that we have. I mean, when you consider both the water, you know, we've got more miles of shoreline than any other state in the country other than Alaska. We've got this tremendous collection of universities that are doing research in this area. We've got the agricultural sector that is doing the research right now, particularly MSU is doing a ton of research in the biofuels component of renewable resources. If any of you saw me drive up, I'm driving this great GM Suburban, but it's an E85 vehicle, and it's wrapped in a big corn on the cob billboard because I want to really promote this idea of the bioeconomy and renewable resources. The 21st Century Energy Plan does call for a renewable portfolio standard of 10% and then another 10% after that, but I think we ought to be really pushing the envelope on that, because if we have a high RPS, that creates the demand for companies to come. So there's both a, and I love the fact that here at Calvin you base this on the fact that we are here as God's people, but this is God's planet, and that we have an obligation here to be stewards of the land and the air and the water, and that responsibility is something I'm so pleased to hear that undergirds what you are doing here, because it really is so critical. But I also say that so in addition to the moral component to it, this is such an economic component to who we are as a state as well. We've just in a bipartisan way in the legislature, passed something called the 21st Century Jobs Fund, which is focusing on diversifying the economy in 4 areas. One of the areas is alternative energy, and what we want to do is to provide startup capital for companies who are clean and green technology companies to come here and build their business here and be the state that's known for that. The first round of funding, we actually funded 15 companies who are going to come to Michigan and grow. And so I say that to you as hope for if you want to go into this field as students, as engineers in alternative energy. Those kind of companies are companies that we want to grow and create. If you feel the urge to become an entrepreneur, we want to encourage that as well, because I think that if we've got really smart people who are willing to, to really push the envelope a bit on this. I mean, the idea about the solar-wind combination of a hybrid is so, I hadn't heard that before. It's so interesting. And it's really, we've got these electric fuel cell hybrids for vehicles and for, as a replacement to the internal combustion engine, but why not for electricity? It's just a really great opportunity for us. So I say all of that to say that you are completely on the right track. Part of our goal as a state, in addition to the research and the development, is the production of the alternative energies and the companies, but also to be a state that leads on the infrastructure for this as well. Because that infrastructure piece that you were talking about and how we connect to the grid for electricity, or how you fill up your vehicle, if you've got a flex fuel engine and you want to get to a gas pump that has E85 or some sort of ethanol or biofuel, we've got to have the infrastructure there for everyday citizens to be able to fill up their tanks with those kind of fuels. And so our goal, and we've put in the budget this year, challenged as we are, an amount to convert at least 1,000 pumps in Michigan to be biofuel pumps, so that if you have a flex fuel vehicle, that you can actually gas up with E85. So I say all of that to say you're exactly on the right track. It's really exciting to be here. It's exciting that you would give people a hands-on opportunity to really be part of sort of what I think is a huge change, a huge paradigm shift for us as a nation, us as a state, and it's very exciting to see this kind of leadership. So thank you for the presentation. Thank you for your brilliance and your excellence, and I really appreciate your willingness to share with me. So now I can take your story on the road. Do you have any questions of me? I'm glad I answered them all. Can I come around and just meet the folks on the, yes?
In the 21st Century Plan, you talk about conservation efforts as well. And there are really, if you're talking about reducing dependence on foreign oil, there are really sort of two sides to this.
Right.
How far are you willing to push the automakers on using the technology we do have now to improve the energy efficiency and the amount per gallon ratings on the vehicles?
Well, I think that is happening regardless of, it's happening because the market is forcing that change. People are not buying the big SUVs unless there is some, reduction or increase in fuel efficiency. But I think it's happening anyway. And really, the huge shakeout in our domestic auto industry, I think much of it has to do with the fact that they didn't get ahead of the curve on fuel efficiency, whereas some of the, and there's many reasons why, but that may be one piece of things, is that the vehicles have to be responsive to human needs and wants. And you're seeing that now come about. When GM has the Volt at the car show this year, the Volt, of course, being a plug-in electric vehicle, what a great thing. And now they are talking about these internal combustion engine electric hybrids, as well as the fuel cell and the fuel cell electric hybrids. So I'm telling you, this is maybe a couple years off to get the full switch over from the traditional internal combustion engine. But I think it's, we are on the precipice, and we've got to lead the way as a state. We really do. So I'm excited about it, and I'm excited about driving a vehicle that sends the message, and I encourage you all to do the same. I encourage you to buy American vehicles, but I encourage you to buy the vehicles that reflect, our role here on this planet. We are put here for something more than just consuming. Supply and demand. We want to create both the supply and the demand here, but obviously reducing the demand for the the fossil fuels is critical, and that's why that conservation piece is so important. Educating people about how you can have, you know, LEED certified buildings if you are newly constructed, how you can have light bulbs that are energy efficient, how you can, you know, not just in your home, but in your vehicle as well. We want to get that word out, and so you're helping to do that by all you're doing here today. So we've got a lot of cameras here. So it's an opportunity to be able to send the message to those who live in this area. Anything else? Well, thank you all again very, very much for your leadership on this, and I look forward to reading about you all in the paper. Good job, you guys. Great job. Yeah. Michelle, great. Yeah, all right, great. Cheryl, how are you? So, what do y'all want to do? Why don't we eat lunch? Or does everybody have to go just to go?
Actually, Governor, you heard some of the challenges the students talked about this project, how to actually implement them. How do you take what they've done today and make it a reality?
You know, what I've heard is that there are challenges, but that these students have found ways to overcome them. And I think that's what this is all about. This is a whole new world, this era of renewable energy. And people in Michigan especially have an opportunity to seize it and to really use Michigan as the jump off point, the place in the country where we develop all sorts of renewable energy so that we not just reduce our reliance on foreign oil, which of course we want to do, but we are also good stewards here on the planet, and that's what Calvin is all about. So this is a very exciting project. It's very exciting for Michigan as an example of what we can become, and it's also part of our economic plan to diversify Michigan's economy.
Do I understand that your executive order is kind of shelved by the Senate Republicans? Where are things in terms of you're trying to structure a budget at this
Well,
level?
this is all a great kabuki dance, as you can imagine the budget is, and so I put a specific proposal on the table. If they are not going to vote for that, then they've got to put a specific proposal back on the table, so I'm waiting to see where their plan is.
There's no 30-day date that comes up where what you suggested goes?
The problem is that any delay puts more challenge on the schools, for example, who we would have to cut if we don't end up reaching a consensus. We've got a massive deficit. It's in the middle of a year, and the longer you wait, the more challenging it becomes. So the time is of the essence. We're in an urgent situation, and that's why when the other side gets a chance to put their proposal on the table, it should be sooner rather than later.
Thank you, Governor.
Okay, great. Thanks, you guys. Hope y'all look good back there. On the back, right? Just making sure. exciting. I look forward to coming back and seeing how the final project. Great, thanks so much.